session, creating opportunities from internships to Drupal careers. My name is Ju Vanderwater.
Woo!
I am product lead and senior front-end developer at Palantir.net. The favorite part of my job, bringing clients products that they really love. I love working with them to make sure that they get the features that they want to use and that really serves their business goals. And then I love my team. I love collaborating with them. We have some really good people at Palantir. So those are my favorite things. And then why am I passionate about this topic? I've had kind of an unconventional path into this career. I was a stay-at-home mom, but when my kids started going to school, I kind of wanted to, start working, and I wanted to find something different than what I had before and work from home. So I had a husband who worked from home. He did Drupal. So I learned Drupal and web development from scratch, and then I got lucky to kind of find entry-level freelancing gigs that helped me learn and develop my skills. But after a while, I was like, well, I really want to work with a bigger team. I want to work on bigger sites that have bigger impact. And so I started looking at Drupal agencies for, internships or entry-level jobs. Well, there were none. Everyone wants to hire, full stack unicorns who are, rock stars already. And so it was really hard. And I was, again, lucky that I had some connections, and I got recommended, hey, you should maybe, apply at Palantir.net. And so I did, and they gave me an opportunity to work as an intern, and then I got hired on as a full-time developer. So I feel really passionate about giving people who, might not be able to find that kind of beginner level positions right away into this career pathway.
Hi, I am not Ju Vanderwater. I'm Travis Portia. I'm a front-end developer here at Palantir.net. Favorite parts about my job?
Sorry. Sorry.
That's me. Favorite parts about my job? I feel like I learn something new every day. We switch projects a lot, which is great for a more junior developer, and I feel like I'm working with some of the most brilliant people I've ever met, and I get to learn something new from each and every project. In every project, I'm sharpening my skills and getting better and better. Why am I passionate about this topic? Well, if there was no internship program, I would not be standing in front of you today. I would not be a part of the Drupal space. I am a product of our fellowship and internship program. My story with Drupal, I did a huge career shift after COVID, as some folks have done as well. I was looking for a job in tech, had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something cool and different. So I started taking coding boot camps and just doing some self-study. Then a friend of a friend of a friend told me about this really awesome opportunity at Palantir, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit later. But it was a fellowship program that partnered with Drupal Easy, Mike Anello sitting right over there, took that course, essentially as a Drupal bootcamp. And then I got hired on as an intern, which then allowed me to be hired on as a full-time developer. So that is my story. Okay, cool. So, you good? Yeah. So why are we here? What are the issues that we're seeing? Why aren't we seeing more junior developers and junior devs and junior anything in the Drupal sphere? Drupal has a very limited talent pipeline. It's hard to learn, Drupal as opposed to like other CMSs. It's hard to get that experience kind of as a junior developer. Why? Drupal has a steep learning curve. It's difficult to gain experience a lot like Ju said before, a lot of companies hire full stack. They're looking for folks with experience, so it's hard to kind of get and break into a Drupal space as a novice, as a junior developer. And also, computer science majors can't keep up with the demand for the growing, Drupal work. So what do we do? How do we fill that gap?
So this session is an opportunity for us to share with you our experience with our internship program. We would want to help you identify examples of common challenges and pathways when mentoring interns in Drupal development, understand key skills needed for a successful Drupal career, and recognize the impact of internship in promoting a more diverse team and community. We don't have all the answers. This is a really hard space.
Dang.
But our goal is to help start conversations with more people in hopes of making broader impact.
But before we do that, we have yet another survey we want the audience to take in. What was your entry point to Drupal? We want to see, did you start as an intern or apprentice? Did you kind of switch over? Were you freelance? Were you self-taught? Did you take a career pivot? What is Drupal? That's a different session. Okay. We should have like waiting music while this is going on, like do 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 do. No, I get paid to sing. All right, everybody in? Okay, so most folks were freelancers, as you can see, or career pivot, but very low apprenticeship or internship. And then no through formal education. That's cool.
Really
that's actually really surprising.
That's not what we expected. Yeah.
But yeah, you can still see internships very, very kind of low on the entry level.
Yeah. So why should you invest in new talent? As Travis mentioned in the previous slides, investing in new talent benefits the Drupal talent pipeline that we're kind of low on. The article that I linked earlier, it's from Drupal Easy, and it is a really fantastic article of where Drupal is right now. So I would highly recommend reading that article because it says a lot for us to like how much work we need to do to like grow our community. And so I'm gonna just say quote a section of Drupal Association's mission and vision, which is empowering makers. We serve our mission by empowering a global community to build a better open web. In all of our work, we seek to inspire and empower, and in doing so, multiply our impact. I've noticed actually a lot of several sessions over the past 2 days around this topic. So it seems like the community is aware of this problem and is seeing it in general. And so, and like for us having internship, like from our perspective, it's helpful in the long term because having interns or junior devs, it can financially be beneficial, like in the long term, because it can decrease your average of the hourly rate. And then one of the most powerful benefits for us at Palantir is team building and growth. In an organization that's continually like learning and improving, which is like one of our big goals, having junior talent allows development of mentorship and coaching skills, which is super important, as well as teaching the junior devs really helps solidify the fundamental skills and knowledge. So we're basically growing by growing other folks. So that's really important to us. But there's one aspect that we really feel passionate about.
Everybody's favorite D word, diversity. The benefits of handpicking and having internships is fostering diversity. And before I get into this too much, I do want to read Drupal Association's mission excerpt on diversity, which says equity, inclusion, accessibility, justice. We work to foster systems and programs that cultivate an environment that breaks down systems of oppression, makes concrete investments in combating marginality, and engages with communities and systems in ways that aim for progress, not perfection. Diversity in tech fosters equity. Statistically, we know diverse companies just perform better. Studies show that up to 19% boost you'll see in revenues and innovation in diverse companies. And on top of that, stronger customer relationships. You have more trust, more buy-in with clients who are diverse when they can see agencies who work for them represent them as well. But despite this, fortunately, marginalized groups are still severely underrepresented in tech, as I'm sure we know, which is a shame because we make products for those marginalized groups. I know at Palantir we work specifically in healthcare, higher ed, government clients. So having a diverse team really, really helps with that client partnership. Next. So what do we do at Palantir? Well, we have what I mentioned before, the Palantir Fellowship. We specifically seek out those marginalized groups within this fellowship. Again, if it wasn't for this fellowship, I wouldn't be here. Let's talk about it a little bit. So the Palantir Fellowship partners with Drupal Easy. And Drupal Easy is that 12-week course I mentioned before. I took that course, learned a lot. Once I passed the course, I am returned safely back to Palantir as an intern for 3 months. So within that internship, I'm learning the culture. I'm learning the flow. I am working on a dummy project, which is really cool. Because I know some companies kind of just throw you into a project, and it's like, oh, what am I doing? How do you do this? I did that, but after I was an intern, I got to meet the staff. The cool thing about Palantir is we're a flat structure, which means that there's no management system. There's no everybody kind of has equal equity in the company as far as the work. So that does take some getting used to if you're not of that world. So that internship really helped me integrate with how Palantir works in that way. Then after I complete that 3-month internship, I got hired on full time, which is great because those kind of opportunities you don't see a lot for folks who are brand new to tech, brand new to development. So yeah, it's great. I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, internally, Palantir team has collaborated on making the internship program better and better. But it's a challenging mission for sure. Last year, I started wondering how other companies' internships have gone because I know that other folks have offered fellowships with Drupal Easy. And I'm like, how come I haven't heard anything about it? Like, what happened to their internships? And why don't we share knowledge on, hey, how can we make, what's your experience? How can we make our internship better? So I started scheduling interviews with several of the Drupal agencies, and we started having conversations. And unfortunately, most of the conversations led to why it was so challenging. Why was it so hard? Which explains why we don't have a lot of internships and entry-level positions out there. One of the biggest problems is that onboarding time for interns, it's actually very long, 6+ months, maybe longer for folks who started without any web development knowledge like HTML or CSS. I remember having to teach our interns how to inspect the web browser to look at the markup and what the CSS, that they could see meant.
That was one time, Jew. Okay, that was one time. Today.
I don't know. There were several, but that's actually knowledge that we kind of take for granted. So if they don't have that, it actually takes a really long time onboarding. And then finding mentors can be difficult. Many devs want to focus on their discipline. They like to code, they like to program, and make PRs. Teaching doesn't come naturally to everyone, so this is actually quite a difficult prospect, like looking for volunteers. Also, depending on what kind of projects you have currently active in the company, appropriate work or tasks for the interns, it can be very difficult to find because there are certain levels of complexity that they can handle. So if you're deep in some 2 or 3 year long project with really complex systems, it's really hard to fit interns in there. Lastly, iteration of the program can be costly. Like a big program like this, onboarding an intern is already, a pretty huge investment for companies, and each iteration of the program can become a further financial burden. And in true Agile fashion,
we have pictures.
We're going to do like a short retro of Palantir's internship program. We sometimes use different formats, and today we decided, sailboat would be nice. And so, Travis, we have 4 sections we want to go over.
Yeah, what are the 4 sections, Ju?
Why don't you start us off with the wind, which is what went well?
Yeah. As I scream into this mic. Yeah, what went well? So the dummy projects in Jira was great for us. Again, it's like the Drupal Easy course, fantastic, but you don't learn until you're on the field. And the dummy projects that were created for us kind of just was that great intermediary to learn the Git workflow, or learn Agile, learn how to, the review process before we're actually onboarded into real live project teams. The structure was great. Things were iterated on after and during my internship. I was the second class of our internship program. So still some kinks to work out, but overall the structure was great. And then being a intern allowed us to build relationships with other devs before actually jumping onto actual client projects. So that was really nice. I'll move us on to the sun. What did we learn? It's the structure part, like Ju was saying, with like mentors actually buying in or devs buying in to be mentors is something that we weren't quite expecting. We assumed that, you assume that everybody wants to help. But again, some folks are more comfortable communicating than others. Some folks are passionate. I lucked out. I got spoiled because I had this one as my mentor and that one as my mentor. But within Palantir, Ju was, she nurtured myself and my fellow intern to be more confident. But she took her time. She worked way over what was expected of her to make sure that we had everything that we needed. But that, again, takes buy-in. So these are some things that we're learning and reiterating on with our internship program. Now, Ju's going to take us away to the other stuff.
Yeah. So the anchor, some things that held us back. Obviously, we have time and budget constraints. Resourcing, project budget. Where is the mentorship budget coming from?
Mm-hmm.
All of that, the logistics. Lack of structure is really detrimental. I can't stress that enough. Like, you really have to have structure that you're following to work with your interns. And then Tiffany, our CEO, also mentioned that remote work actually delays the ability to properly flag and help interns because we love remote work. Palantir is fully remote. It gives us flexibility, but for newly onboarding teammates in general, and especially interns who need a lot of help and hand-holding, it can be really difficult.
She's talking about me.
No.
It's okay.
And then one of the biggest hurdles we ran into again is the steep learning curve. Drupal has a pretty, steep learning curve. And so I'm going to skip to the next slide real quick. Here's an example list of technical skills that are required for someone to become an independent developer who can do medium complexity ticket with little support. As you can see, you have to know a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not just, download Drupal and start doing site building. You have to learn all the basic tool chains, which, includes how to use terminal, Git, Drush, Xdebug, Composer stuff,
God.
and that's like its own can of worms.
Correct.
Yeah, all the dependencies that you have to be able to flag. Node, NVM, Yarn. When I started at Palantir, I didn't know what Node was. I'm like, what is that? And so there's a lot of basic knowledge that comes with a web development. And then, of course, there's the core Drupal skills.
Correct.
Site building, everything that goes with it, all the modules.
For front end devs, working with paragraphs and layout builder, paragraphs and Twig were my whole bread and butter when I was working with her. But that's something I had to learn on the field.
Yeah.
Views.
Yeah,
Amen.
Views is its own
Can
thing.
okay, yeah. Views is its own. She could be its own college course. And then basic theming. So Twig, which I love. I hated it at first, but I love it now. How to theme, how to use Twig debug, fun stuff with accessibility. Again, we work with a lot of government clients and higher ed clients, so it's like making sure that their sites are accessible, running those tests, like that's a whole thing. Yeah, and then back-end skills, which are things that I'm still getting better at. Like even right now, like 2.5, 3 years in, working.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
we wouldn't expect like new developers to know how to write contrib modules or custom modules, but with the sort of tickets that we have, you have to be able to go into the module that is already there and be able to at least figure out maybe this is the part that's wrong, and so you have to learn to read PHP to some degree.
How to
right?
debug.
Yeah, and so because if you can't do that, then the set of tickets that you can do it limits you even more. So these are the technical skills, and then we have soft skills that come with starting a new career, especially if you're new to web development or software development. You have to learn how to use like Jira, Google Suites, Miro, Figma, because we use these daily. If you don't come from Agile organization, now you have all these Agile terminology and knowledge that you have to absorb. Like, what is Scrum?
Correct.
What are these swim lanes? How do I put the tickets?
What is
into
a
the right
PO?
place? Yeah.
Like, oh, there's no manager. Oh, I don't have to turn this. I have to. Oh, okay. Like, who is the team lead? Like, what? Like, who do you go to for what thing that you need? Who's the technical architect? What's the different things that you need to be comfortable with before you even start working on your first project?
Yeah, and communication. If you have folks who have not done client communication before, that's something that you need practice on. How to ask technical questions
Correct.
to the clients to get more details, or how to present your work to the clients. There's just so much going on, and these are the lists that we've put together for our interns to kind of help set expectations and milestones, so that they can kind of see, these are the things that we need to learn.
So we want to kind of give an example ticket for kind of each level, or 3 different levels of kind of skill set. So we're gonna do like a low complexity ticket. Some devs probably are like, yeah, this is I can do this in 10 minutes. Medium complexity, and then we're gonna do a larger complexity, just so we can show what the expectations for newer and younger developers are like in ticket form. So will be what we'll consider a low complexity ticket for me to pick up. So this would be something like adding a new field to an event's content type. Simple for those of us who've done it forever, but it does take simple site building knowledge, knowing the difference between like an image field and a media field, how to use Git and export config, things of that nature. We can go to medium complexity. The bigger dog, medium complexity, will be something like, so the first one would take about 3 months for a developer?
2 to 3 months, I would say.
To get comfortable with doing. So the medium complexity ticket would be something like theming. So working in Twig, like adding or theming a content type to match the prototype. So working in Twig, working in CSS, loading up and spinning up that style guide, making sure that the style guide component matches the Drupal component, debugging if something's going wrong using tools like Twig Tweak. This is something that would take a newer developer, 4 to 6 months of actual practice to kind of master.
And then we have some like high complexity tickets. And so we work a lot. I work a lot in continuous delivery portfolio at Palantir, which is like a maintenance and support where we continue to iterate on our client projects. And we really see it as opportunities to consult them every month so that we can improve. It's not just module updates. It's not just core updates or bug fixes. We really, really try to strategically consult with them and like find out what their next goals are and try to implement them. So we do get pretty complex tickets. And so, this is an example, a real example of what we did was events content type has recurring event setup, and we need additional dates view block that shows the next occurrences of the event. Currently, it's sort of a bug. Currently, we have recurring events, but the view block is not functioning properly. We can't see the additional dates. And so this is a ticket that a former Drupal Easy graduate who's been at Palantir for a couple years took on and could not finish without a senior dev support. So she tried looking at
and she's brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, no, she's great. She tried Drupal module knowledge. So she went to the contrib page, looked through the issue queues, and then started messing with the views. Maybe there are more contextual filters or relationships we need to put into place. And then there was a little bit of writing custom PHP. Can we write a custom, piece of custom code to make this work? At that point, we needed to, put a senior dev on that ticket with her so that we could work together. And what happened was we decided, that was not the right module to put in the first place. So we need to rip it out, put a new thing in place that's going to work. So here, the biggest challenge here is to give the devs the self-confidence to be able to flag technical debt and say, this is not the right thing. And then the empowerment to go and say, hey, I think we should just completely abandon this and do something different, a different approach. It takes a lot of practice between the devs and the mentors, people who are teaching them, to continue to work to build that confidence so that they can get past that stage. So I would say that this kind of work, it takes 2+ years of like hands-on experience to get there, because self-doubt and not being able to like say, this is not the right approach, it takes a really long time.
But the next time this dev sees something like this, they'll be able to acknowledge the issue and have a path forward. And they wouldn't have that without the hands-on experience and the mentorship from you guys.
Yep.
The more you know.
So we're going to go back to our retro. We have one more section, which is our brief. Future risks ahead. We certainly are feeling a lot of economic uncertainty. I think everyone's feeling it a little bit, which impacts our decision regarding onboarding new folks. And then another huge uncertainty that we talk about a lot internally is the rise of AI. How do we use AI effectively? But how does that impact new developers, and how does that impact our industry in general? And so, it can do so much coding and testing already. It's amazing what it can do, but how does that, affect us as a company and as like we want to bring in interns? Like, what does that mean? So lots of uncertainty there.
So what do we do now? We don't have all the answers. This is the question that we're posing to the community as a whole. What do we do to make sure we're fostering growth? What do we do to make sure we're opening up that pipeline so that we're getting newer developers into the community to be successful? So this is a conversation that we need to have, that we should have, that we offer to the community. Like, what can we do? So I went to a session yesterday that I really enjoyed with the CIO of the state of Georgia to talk about ways that the state actually works with different schools and different initiatives to bring in young talent or make young folks interested in tech. Um, College is not for everyone. I don't have a degree in computer science, and I have a really great career in tech. So where can we meet? Where can we find? How can we harvest new talent? Consider offering internships. Again, I wouldn't be here without an internship. I wouldn't be here without a fellowship. Also, we were talking about maybe collaborating, like different companies or different organizations collaborating with one another to talk about maybe sponsoring, you know, young talent, bringing in folks who are interested in getting into tech but don't quite know how. You know, going to local schools, job fairs, definitely charging ourselves as a community to be responsible with like ushering in that next generation of young talent. But yeah, this is a conversation. This conversation's open. We want to hear from you. We're gonna be at our booth later on. We have a little blurb at the end of this. You can write to us, but this is a conversation that we want to have with the community. How can we fix this issue, or how can we at least start thinking about new talent?
And one of the interesting ideas that someone at an agency that I talked to kind of came up with was, I wonder if there's a way for us, like all the interested agencies, to partner so that it's more like a fractional co-op, so that one company doesn't shoulder all the financial burden. So maybe, one company pays for an internship, but they don't have bandwidth for a full-time employee option. Then they can, contact other agencies and say, hey, we have a really great intern here. Does anyone have bandwidth? We can vouch for these skills that this person has that we've taught. Or maybe there's a scholarship that everyone can fund into for one person. I don't know. The idea is like we love to hear it because we do feel passionate about this. And currently Palantir has, I think, 6 full-time employees that came out of Drupal Easy program. And it is unusual after kind of speaking to all the agencies. So we would like to make it more normal and, spread this kind of opportunity to everyone who needs it. So
Spread the love.
yeah. So
So now we want to kind of open it up to conversation, questions. What do you guys think? Yes.
Yeah, as I was like listening to this, full disclosure, I came here because I'm more senior level, and I'm like kind of interested in like more contract work on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of wondering if maybe there's some adjacent, subject matter with this conversation, and it kind of made me wonder as you guys were talking, like if there was some way to like connect the two when you have people that do have in the community that have like experience and maybe you're looking for some sort of like side work combined with like people who are like newer in the industry. Because as you're talking about, it's like someone coming fresh new like doesn't know HTML and CSS.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know about that, so like yeah, I don't know, kind of made me like think about that, and also things like I don't know if you've ever been on like leak code, but the software engineering community as a whole has a lot of ways of like gamifying like reputation. And I wonder if there's like a way to like do that and kind of this niche community that is Drupal. Like I don't know, but yeah, that was kind of initial thoughts as I was listening.
I think, Mike, I wasn't there, but like I think you gave a session about like the partnership between D.O and this kind of, growing new talent sort of thing, right?
Do you want me to summarize?
Sure.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. Everybody, Mike Candello, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
no, I
Mike
wanted to go. I just had a different one that I really wanted to go to.
And I mean, I'm glad you're here because you
Yeah.
have a lot of insight on this.
Because there's like 11 sessions going on at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday morning, myself and Carlos Espina and Emily presented on a new community initiative called IXP, which stands for Inexperienced. And the whole idea behind the program is to incentivize organizations to hire new Drupal developers. And the really short version is is that we've worked with the DA. There have already been some changes made to jobs.drupal.org specifically for these types of jobs. We have some requirements from both the employer as well as the intern. But once those requirements are met, the hiring organization is awarded 250 contribution credits, which is a large amount. Average core contribution is 10. So this is 25 times more, if my math is correct. But something that has a lot of overlap with what you two were talking about was one of our very next tasks, other than we have to launch something to get it actually moving, but that's next week. After that, we've got a lot of raw data from organizations that have used interns. In different parts of the world, and so we're putting together some best practice documentation, documentation about what makes a good mentor, because we've got a lot of questions from employers about, well, what do I do with these people, right? What tasks are they good, would be useful. So just like you have been interviewing other organizations, that's kind of where we're at as well. So I've already made a note that I'm going to be calling each year.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, I think there's, this is a solvable problem. It's not a technical problem, which makes us all very uncomfortable that we can't code our way out of it. But it's a solvable problem. There's enough people who are invested that just turn the crank and make it happen.
That's awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yes.
First of all, I thought it's amazing you have that list of technical skills and soft skills. It was really well organized, and I was like, wow. And also, having those skill dependencies for each task example was really cool to look at, actually. So that was great. That's not a question. I just really like it. Yes, I can do that.
It takes
About
a
you.
lot
Yeah.
that we take for granted. I mean, it's a lot of work to get there.
But yes, totally. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
As someone who was a mentor there, why, and hearing that you were spending your more than your normal working hours doing mentoring and stuff like that, that's obviously not sustainable. And one way or the other, I guess the mentoring program is it just you didn't have more interns, or was that not sustainable either? I'm curious as to why that didn't continue, or did you not have more interns than you? I didn't.
We do. We actually currently have
We
a
haven't.
Drupal Easy intern in-house. And then I think we're interviewing another who's a fellow. So we used to have 2 per session, cycle. And I think right now we've got 1. So we continually do that. And we also cycle through mentors so that it doesn't burn the mentors out as well, because it can be a lot. And it's best when the intern can plug into the project that the mentor is working on at the
Correct.
time, so that they can give really hands-on actual help, instead of, oh, you don't know HTML? I don't know. Go look at this, right? They know the exact ticket that they're working
Yes.
on, so that is the most helpful way. So it also depends on what the senior devs are, what project senior devs are working on, as to who gets kind of matched up with an intern.
Yes. That was a turning point for me. That was a click aha moment when I was working on a project with you as my mentor and as also my PO, as also a senior developer on the team, of she is reviewing my work and we're going through the work together. Let's debug this together. That was really, really great, but also I knew it just took a lot of time and effort on her part, and I'm grateful for it. But how do we, like you said, make that sustainable? How do we make that into a system that works for everybody?
And did you mention company culture earlier? I think.
I probably didn't. You can go ahead and do it.
No, I was just also it's not just technical either. There's a lot of company culture and communication style that the intern needs to match up with as well. Even if they're really, really technically savvy, if they don't know how to communicate with what the company culture that's already there, and kind of fit into it, it's difficult. So when we interview for fellows, we definitely ask less technical questions, but more, how do you communicate? Like when when you can't move forward, like what kind of help do you reach out for? How do you do that? So we have a flat structure at Palantir. We don't have managers, and so self motivation and self
It's
like
self-motivation,
flagging of your and then promoting your own growth. It's really, really important. And so those are the things that we look for in our fellows when we interview.
Any more questions, comments? Kira? Go ahead.
Has there been any talk about sort of exposing more, sort of front-loading the group of people, exposing them more to Drupal before they even think about getting an internship? That's, based on the poll, that's how a lot of us in this room found Drupal, right? We just kind of found it as we became Drupal developers. And so that happened to me in college. Like, are there any sort of initiatives to like get school clubs using it? And
I
things
don't
like
think
that?
there are. Mike?
There are a lot of initial attempts at that rarely come to fruition. This is moving into opinion territory here. But
It's all right. Got 5 minutes.
in my opinion, because most of them are overly ambitious to start, right? So, yeah, there's definitely, I've talked to a few people here in Atlanta about, doing something like that again, and it seems like it should be an easy task, but it's not. But there's definitely, look, it's not. I know that you guys had a slide up there, or a second bullet point about local schools, involvement with local schools. That definitely caught my eye, because it's something that I would love to figure out a way to make work. I can't do it myself, and I don't.
And you shouldn't have to. Right.
Yeah, but I think there's a path forward with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, with that desktop app that they demoed, people can install it on their computers, but having to be web developer.
Yeah. And there are government entities that are allocating resources to, like I said before, like we were at a session yesterday, and I didn't realize, like, unless you're plugged in and know like what a resource is, like there's money that goes into, schools, or goes into education and exposure to kids or students in tech. So maybe there's a partnership with that. Go ahead.
A lot of that, and this is something that we're well aware of with the IXP program, a lot of that relies on there being some type of initial structure in place.
Yes.
Right? So that's up to us to get something in place that we can point at and say, look, we're doing this. Can we please have some money so we can scale that?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's that first that we need to tackle. That's the really hard part before we can unlock possible funding.
And for what it's worth, from the interviews that I've had, it seems like people have had more success having interns from like local community colleges, because they usually get students who are already learning the topic or are interested in maybe pursuing that career path. And so it's more successful because the onboarding time is a little bit shorter, right? You can really like teach them really quickly, but that doesn't. That really definitely is a different audience than like underrepresented groups that we want to maybe target or focus on. Sometimes like they're two different kinds of internships, I feel like. So anyway.
Like you're also speaking to you talk about being in person together. You're talking about locality here too. That seems related when you were talking about the impact that can have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That too. Yeah. Remote is hard for interns.
Yeah.
It's
It takes a lot of just being able to self-start and owning, and it takes a lot of discipline, right? As we all know who work remotely. So it's like teaching kids who are used to going to class every day, who have somebody standing behind them and holding them accountable. It's like you're holding your own self accountable when you work remote. So that's another challenge of, getting younger talent, especially at that kind of age, interested and ready for a job that is remote in tech. So.
And asking questions, it's hard when you're remote too. Like you have to type it in Slack and be like, I'm stuck. Like
just like that.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Sand.
So that definitely is a big blocker, I feel like, in success if we don't like actively try to mitigate it by, checking in with them and having Scrum and like, hey, how long have you been spinning your wheel on that one problem? So like you have to be really mindful and intentional about reaching out to them. So.
And I think we're at time. Thank you so much for coming to our play. We are at the Palantir booth for a couple more hours. Please come by. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, the QR code at the very end. Please scan. Let us know what you think. Thank you so much for coming out. Join us at the conference.